Hey guys, tonight we're drifting back. Way back. Dim the lights, sink into the pillow, let the day melt off your shoulders. We're not here for battles or conquests. No. Tonight, we're curling up inside the cold stone walls of a medieval castle. And we're going to sleep. Or try to. Because sleeping in a 12th century fortress, that's a whole saga of its own. So breathe slow. Let the world go quiet. And let's float into the damp, drafty, utterly miserable bedtime routines of Europe's richest, most powerful, and most sleep-deprived people. First thing you notice when you step into a medieval castle bedroom. It's not cozy. At all. The walls are 3 feet thick, sure. But they're also sweating. Literally. Condensation drips down the stones like the castle itself is crying. And the windows. Tiny slits. Arrow loops, really. Designed to let in arrows, not air. So you've got two choices. Open the wooden shutter and freeze. Or keep it closed and suffocate in your own breath. Royalty, of course, chose neither. They just layered up. And up. And up. Let's start with the bed. Because oh boy, the bed. It's not a bed. It's a statement. A 4-poster monstrosity carved from oak so dark it drinks the candlelight. Curtains. Of course. Heavy velvet, embroidered with gold thread, scenes of hunting or crucifixion, or whatever the lady of the house was into that decade. The curtains aren't for privacy. They're for survival. Because inside that curtained box, that's your microclimate. Your only hope of not waking up with frost on your beard. King John of England, he of the Magna Carta fame, slept in a bed so draped it looked like a cathedral collapsed on him. And still complained. Every morning. Of course he did, you're thinking. Because why not? The man lost half his kingdom. Might as well lose sleep too. Now the mattress. Feathers. Sometimes. If you were lucky. If you were French. The English. Straw. Lumpy, scratchy, mouse-infested straw. Changed once a year. Maybe. Edward I. Longshanks, the hammer of the Scots, slept on straw so old it had its own ecosystem. Fleas. Lice. A family of voles living in the corner. He didn't care. He was tall. 6'2". The bed was 5'8". So every night he curled like a question mark, knees to chest, snoring through a nose broken in a tournament at age 16. His wife, Eleanor of Castile. She had her own bed. 3 feet away. They didn't share. Not because they didn't love each other. They did. 14 kids. But because castle beds were status symbols. You didn't share status. You hoarded it. Like gold. Like land. Like sleep. Speaking of sleep. Let's talk about the sheets. Linen. Rough linen. Woven so coarse it could sand a table. Washed twice a year. In lye. Which smelled like death. And stained everything yellow. Queen Matilda, wife of William the Conqueror, had sheets so stiff they stood up on their own. She slept on her back. Arms crossed. Like a tomb effigy. Because if she rolled, the sheets crackled. Like parchment. Woke the dogs. Woke the guards. Woke the priest sleeping in the corner. Yes, the priest. More on him later. Now the pillows. Goose down. Huh. Only if you were the king. And even then, only one. Flat as a communion wafer. Most nobles used a log. A literal log. Carved smooth. Sometimes painted. Sometimes with a little dip for the neck. Richard the Lionheart had a cedar log from the Holy Land. Smelled like pine and regret. He rested his head on it every night and dreamed of crusades. And dysentery. Mostly dysentery. Under the bed. A chamber pot. Porcelain. If you were rich. Would if you were. Either way, it was full by morning. Because hydration was a medieval flex. You drank ale. You drank wine. You drank small beer. You drank whatever wasn't water. Because water killed you. So by 3 a.m., everyone was up. Stumbling in the dark. Trying not to step on the dog. Or the servant. Yes, the servant. Sleeping on the floor. On a rush mat. Next to the fire. Which had gone out 2 hours ago. Because coal was expensive. And wood was wet. And the chimney backed up. So the room smelled like smoke. And feet. And fear. Let's linger on the servant for a minute. Because they didn't just sleep there. They were the alarm clock. The heater. The security system. If an assassin crept in, the servant died first. If the fire went out, the servant relit it. If the Lord had a nightmare, the servant heard it and wrote it down. Because dreams were omens, and omens were politics. One poor boy in the court of Henry II woke up to the king screaming about a dragon eating his heart. The boy wrote it down. The king read it. The boy was promoted, then executed. Because why not? It's the 12th century. Job security is a myth. Now the fire. Or what passed for one. A few logs. Some peat. A lot of smoke. The chimney was a joke. A stone tube that went up 3 feet and then gave up. So the room filled with haze. Your eyes watered. Your throat burned. You coughed all night. But you kept the fire going. Because outside. November. The moat was frozen. The drawbridge groaned. The wind howled through the murder holes like a banshee with a grudge. So you slept in your clothes. All of them. Tunic. Hose. Surcoat. Cloak. Fur-lined boots. A hat. Gloves. You looked like a laundry pile with a pulse. And still you shivered. Let's float over to the nursery. Because royal bobbies. They didn't fare better. They fared worse. Swaddled so tight they couldn't move. Rocked in cradles carved with saints. Watched by wet nurses who drank ale to keep the milk flowing. The cradle was suspended from the ceiling. On ropes. Because rats. Rats everywhere. Fat black fearless rats. They chewed the ropes. They chewed the blankets. They chewed the baby's toes if you weren't watching. One princess in Anjou woke up missing a pinky. The nurse blamed the cat. The cat was executed. The nurse was promoted. Medieval HR was wild. The royal children slept in the great hall. With everyone else. Because privacy was for peasants. And peasants didn't have it either. 50 people in one room. Snoring. Farting. Whispering prayers. The king on his dais. The queen in her corner. The kids in a row like sausages. The dogs under the table. The falcons on perches. The jester in the rafters. Everyone together. One big dysfunctional family. Bound by blood. And lice. Now the blankets. Wool. Heavy wool. Itched like sin. Smelled like sheep. And lanolin. And whatever died in it last winter. You didn't wash blankets. You aired them. Once. In spring. If the sun came out. which it didn't. Because England. So you slept under a blanket that had seen things. Generations of things. It was warm. That's all you could say for it. Warm. And alive. With moths. Let's pause on the moths for a second. Because castle moths were built different. Big. Fuzzy. Fearless. They'd land on your face at 2 a.m. You'd wake up nose to wing with a creature that looked like a tiny bat wearing a sweater. You didn't swat it. You negotiated. Please. You whispered. Not the eyes. The moth considered. Then flew into the candle. Sizzled. Died. You went back to sleep. Smelling burnt hair. The candles. Tallow. Made from sheep fat. Smoked like a chimney. Smelled like a butcher shop. One per room. If you were lucky. The king got 2. The queen got beeswax. Because she was fancy. And allergic to sheep. The rest of you. Tallow. Dripping. Flickering. Going out at the worst moment. You'd wake up in total darkness. Heart pounding. Convinced the devil was in the room. He was. It was just Jeffrey from accounting. Snoring. Again. Now the nightly routine. Because there was one. Rigid. Religious. At dusk the chaplain rang the bell. Everyone knelt. Prayed. In Latin. Even if you didn't speak Latin. You just moved your lips. Looked holy. Then the Lord washed his hands. In a silver basin. With rosewater. If he was feeling extra. Then he climbed into bed. The curtains were drawn. The servant blew out the candle. The door was barred. The dog growled. The night began. And the dreams. Oh, the dreams. Medieval people dreamed hard. Visions. Prophecies. Ghosts of dead kings. Wolves with human faces. Saints telling you to invade France. You woke up sweating. Even in winter. You woke up praying. You woke up writing it down. Because if the king dreamed it, it was policy. One duke dreamed his wife was a swan. He divorced her. She became a nun. The swan became a tapestry. Everyone moved on. Let's drift to the queen's chamber. Because queens had it worse. They slept with their ladies. 6 of them. In one bed. Like a sleepover from hell. Gossiping. Praying. Crying. One lady snored. One lady talked in her sleep. One lady wet the bed. The queen. She lay in the middle. Eyes open. Staring at the canopy. Thinking about her children. Her lands. Her husband's mistress. She didn't sleep. She endured. And the children. The poor, sickly, overbred children. Born too early. Born too late. Born with teeth. Born with 6 fingers. Born with the Habsburg jaw in 1180. They slept in rows. Watched by nurses. Fed honey and wine. Swaddled until they screamed. One prince in Castile was swaddled so tight his legs bowed. He walked like a crab. They called him the pious. Because he couldn't sin. He couldn't reach. The nursery smelled like milk. And vomit. And fear. The wet nurse sang lullabies in Occitan. The baby cried in Latin. The priest blessed the cradle. The dog pissed on the floor. The rat watched from the corner. It was home. Now the king's insomnia. Because every king had it. Henry I couldn't sleep after his son drowned. He paced the battlements. Counted stars. Talk to the moon. His servants followed with blankets. He sent them away. He wanted to suffer. He was English. Suffering was branding. Richard II slept with a sword under his pillow. Not for protection. For comfort. The steel was cold. The weight was real. He pressed his cheek to it. Whispered to it. Called it brother. His actual brother was in the tower. Plotting. The sword didn't plot. The sword just waited. Edward III slept with his dogs. 14 of them. Big ones. Elance. Mastiffs. One licked his face all night. He didn't mind. He smelled like dog. His wife smelled like dog. The kingdom smelled like dog. It was unity. Let's linger on the smells for a minute. Because medieval castles smelled like a crime scene. Smoke. Sweat. Wet stone. Dog. Piss. Rosewater. Desperation. You got used to it. You had to. You slept in it. You dreamed in it. You woke up tasting it. The morning came slow. Gray light through the arrow slit. The bell for matins. The priest coughing. The dog stretching. The servant poking the fire. The king groaning. The queen already up. Praying. The children crying. The rat scurrying. Another day. But we're not there yet. We're still in the night. The long, cold, itchy night. The night that stretched like a bad marriage. The night that belonged to the castle. And the castle never slept. It creaked. It groaned. It whispered. Ghosts in the walls. Memories in the stones. The castle remembered every scream. Every birth. Every death. And it held them. Like a mother. Like a prison. So you slept. Or tried. Curled in your cocoon of wool and status. Dreaming of spring. Of open windows. Of a bed that didn't smell like sheep. You dreamed of silence. But the castle wouldn't allow it. It had stories. And it told them. All night. Every night. Forever. Let's float to another chamber. Another bed. Another disaster, hey again. Still with me. Good. We're staying in England. Because the Plantagenets. They didn't just rule. They suffered. Spectacularly. And nowhere more than in bed. So let's ease back into the 13th century. The torches are low. The hounds are dreaming. And Henry III is trying to sleep. Emphasis on trying. Henry III was not a warrior king. He was a church king. A stained glass window king. A let's rebuild Westminster Abbey king. He spent more on stone than on soldiers. And at night, he spent on anxiety. The man slept with a reliquary under his pillow. A splinter of the true cross. Encased in gold. Weighing half a pound. Every time he rolled over, it dug into his skull. He didn't care. It was holy. It was protection. From what? Everything. The French. The barons. His own brother. The dreams. Mostly the dreams. His wife, Eleanor of Provence, slept across the room. In a bed carved with mermaids. She liked mermaids. They reminded her of home. The Mediterranean. Sun. Lemon trees. Not this damp island where the sun was a rumor. She slept with a hot stone at her feet. Wrapped in flannel. Heated in the fire. Changed every 2 hours. By a servant. Who never slept. The stone cooled. Her temper didn't. She wrote letters at 3 a.m. to her uncle in Savoy, complaining about the weather, the food, the king. The king read them, pretended he didn't, sighed, went back to his reliquary. Their children slept in the solar, 8 of them, in 2 beds, like sardines in chainmail. Edward, future Edward I, was already 6'2" at age 15. He slept diagonally, 1 foot in his brother's face, 1 hand on his sister's throat. She didn't mind. She was used to it. She dreamed of France, of tournaments, of a husband who bathed. She'd get none of those things. The nursery had a night light, not a candle, a lamp filled with olive oil from Provence. Expensive. It flickered. It smoked. It kept the demons away. Or so the nurse said. The nurse was 80, half blind, fully drunk. She sang in Provençal. The bobbies cried in English. The rat watched from the cradle, waiting. Henry I had a bedtime story, not a book. Books were for monks. He had a clerk, a nervous clerk named Matthew, who read from the Chronicles every night, the same chapter, about his grandfather Henry II, and how great he was, and how many castles he built, and how many sons he had. Henry II listened, eyes closed, fist clenched. He had 1 son, who would dwarf him, literally and historically. He knew it. He hated it. He listened anyway. The clerk's voice was monotone, perfect for sleep. He droned on about aqueducts, about taxes, about the murder of Becket. Henry I snored through the murder, woke up at the Amen, asked for water, got wine, drank it, went back to sleep, dreamed of churches, of gold, of his mother, who told him he was disappointing. She always did. Let's drift down the corridor, to the guest chamber. Because guests, they had it worse. They slept on pallets, on the floor, next to the privy. The privy was a hole in the wall, over the moat. The moat was frozen. The hole was not. You did your business. You froze your business. You went back to bed, smelling like victory. 1 guest, a bishop from York, fell asleep too close to the hole. Rolled, fell, into the moat. In January, they fished him out. Blue, silent. He survived, converted to asceticism, slept on stone ever after. The king sent him a blanket. The bishop sent it back, with a note, too soft. The king laughed, then cried, then taxed someone. The castle had a ghost. Of course it did. Every castle had a ghost. This one was a lady, in white, with no face. She walked the battlements at midnight, moaned, threw pebbles. The guards ignored her. They were paid to. The dogs barked. The dogs were not. 1 dog followed her, every night, never came back. They named the next dog the same. Tradition. The king heard the ghost, every night. He blamed the wind. His wife blamed the servants. The servants blamed the ghost. The ghost said nothing. She just walked, and walked, and walked, until the stones wore smooth, until the story wore thin, until no one remembered her name. Just the moan. Now the laundry. because someone had to wash the sheets. And that someone was not royal. The laundress was a woman named Agnes. 40. Missing 3 teeth. Owned 1 dress. She washed in the river. In February. Her hands cracked. Her back ached. Her songs were filthy. The queen heard them. Sent her a shawl. Agnes used it to scrub the privy. The queen never knew. Agnes slept well. On straw. In the stables. With the horses. The horses didn't snore. The horses had better beds than the grooms. Thick straw. Fresh daily. Blankets. The grooms had rags. And resentment. One groom dreamed of stealing a horse. Riding south. To Spain. To sun. He woke up. Fed the horse. Mucked the stall. Went back to sleep. Dreamed again. Same dream. Every night. For 30 years. The castle had a curfew. At Compline. The bell rang. The gates closed. The drawbridge rose. The world ended at the moat. Inside, the night belonged to routine. To ritual. To the slow grind of survival. You slept. You woke. You prayed. You pissed. You slept again. The cycle was sacred. The cycle was hell. Let's linger on the chapel. Because the chapel never slept. The monks sang. All night. In shifts. Psalms. In Latin. The sound drifted through the stones. Into the bedrooms. Into the dreams. The king heard it. The queen heard it. The baby heard it. The rat heard it. The ghost heard it. And paused. Just for a moment. Then walked on. The monks didn't sleep. They chanted. They prayed. They copied manuscripts. By candlelight. Their eyes failed. Their hands shook. Their faith deepened. One monk fell asleep on his psalter. Woke up with ink on his face. The abbot beat him. The monk thanked him. The ink became a tattoo. Of Psalm 23. He died at 90. Still chanting. Still blind. Still grateful. The king visited the chapel at 4 a.m. Every morning. In his nightshirt. Barefoot. The stones were cold. The monks didn't look up. He knelt. He prayed. He cried. He left. The monks kept singing. The song never stopped. The castle breathed it. The castle lived it. The castle was it. Now the dreams again. Because medieval dreams were currency. You traded them. You feared them. You obeyed them. One baron dreamed of a white stag. He hunted it. For 7 years. Never found it. Died in a ditch. The stag was seen again. By his son. The son became a monk. The stag became a tapestry. The tapestry hung in the hall. The stag looked smug. The queen dreamed of her mother. Every night. Her mother told her to be strong. To be fertile. To be silent. She woke up angry. Wrote letters. Burned them. Slept again. Dreamed again. Same dream. Same mother. Same advice. She followed it. For 40 years. Had 9 children. Lost 4. Kept silent. Died in her bed. The bed with the mermaids. The mermaids didn't cry. The prince dreamed of war. Of glory. Of a crown. He woke up tall. Taller. Tallest. He took the crown. He took the continent. He took the name. Longshanks. He slept on straw. He slept in tents. He slept on battlefields. He never slept well. He didn't care. He was king. The castle watched. The castle waited. The castle remembered. Every sigh. Every tear. Every fart. The stones held it all. The stones gave nothing back. The stones were patient. The stones were eternal. We're still in the night. The long night. The night that belonged to no one. And everyone. The night that shaped kings. And broke them. The night that whispered. And never lied. Let's drift lower. To the kitchens. To the cellars. To the places the lords never saw. But the castle knew, still breathing slow. Good. We're going lower now. Down the spiral stairs. The ones that smell like wet dog and old wine. Past the chapel. Past the great hall. Into the underbelly of the castle. Where the lords never went. Unless they were drunk. Or hiding. Or both. The air gets thicker here. Thicker and warmer. Because the kitchens never sleep. And the cellars never forgive. First the kitchens. Stone floors. Vaulted ceilings. Fires that roar like dragons with indigestion. The cooks are up before the monks. Kneading dough with fists the size of hams. Their arms white with flour. Their eyes red with smoke. They sleep in shifts. 2 hours here. 2 hours there. On a bench. Under a table. Next to the oven. The oven is their god. Their lover. Their tormentor. It gives bread. It gives warmth. It gives burns. One cook, Big Thomas, has a scar from wrist to elbow. Shaped like a crescent roll. He got it reaching for a loaf. The oven took its tithe. He still reaches. Every night. Because hunger doesn't sleep. And neither does the king. The king wants white bread. Manchet bread. Fine as silk. Sifted 3 times. Baked in small loaves. Served hot. With butter. From Normandy. Churned by virgins. Allegedly. The cooks don't care about virgins. They care about salt. About yeast. About not burning the crust. They curse in 3 languages. Norman French. Anglo-Saxon. Kitchen Latin. Deus meus non cumbur. God, don't let it burn. It burns anyway. The king sends it back. The cook eats it. Hot. Burnt. Perfect. The scullery boy sleeps in the ashes. Curled like a cat. Face black with soot. He's 12. Maybe. No one counts. He dreams of pies. Of sugar. Of a mother he never knew. He wakes up when the pot boils over. Scrubs. 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 The pots are copper. Heavy. Green with verdigris. He scrubs until his fingers bleed. The blood seasons the stew. No one notices. The stew is good. The spit boy sleeps on the spit. Not on it. Next to it. Turning the crank. Slow. Steady. A whole ox. Dripping fat. Sizzling. The heat bakes his face. One side red. One side pale. Like a badly cooked pie. He turns the crank. He nods off. The crank stops. The ox burns. The cook screams. The spit boy wakes. Turns faster. His arms ache. His eyes sting. He dreams of sleep. Real sleep. On straw. In silence. He gets 3 hours. At dawn, when the fire dies, he sleeps like the dead. Until the next ox. The cellars are below. Dark, damp, alive. Barrels of wine, sacks of grain, wheels of cheese, hams hanging like sinners. The air is thick with mold, with fermentation, with the breath of the castle. The steward sleeps here, on a stool, keys around his neck. Like a noose, he counts barrels in his sleep. 112, 113, 114. He wakes up if one is missing. He always wakes up. Someone is always stealing. A guard, a groom, a rat. The rat is the worst, because the rat doesn't fear the keys. The wine is guarded, not by men, by reputation. The king's wine, from Gascony, from Anjou, from nowhere near England. It's red, it's thick, it stains everything. The cups, the sheets, the soles. One barrel leaks. Slow, steady. The floor is purple. The steward mops it. With straw. The straw drinks. The steward drinks. The king drinks. The circle is complete. The cheese is alive. Blue veins. Crawling. The cheesemonger sleeps with it. In a hammock. Between the wheels. He talks to the cheese. Calls it my darling. My beauty. My rancid princess. The cheese doesn't answer. But it grows. It ripens. It conquers. One wheel escapes. Rolls down the stairs. Into the moat. The moat digests it. Slowly. The fish get drunk. The heron gets bold. The castle gets dinner. The grain is guarded by cats. 20 of them. Fat. Lazy. Murderous. They sleep on the sacks. Purr like thunder. Their eyes glow in the dark. Like demons. Like angels. Like cats. One cat whiskers has one ear. Lost it to a rat. The rat lost more. The cat sleeps on the king's wheat. The king's wheat feeds the king's horses. The king's horses carry the king's knights. The king's knights guard the king's castle. The circle is complete. The cat doesn't care. The cellarer dreams of France, of vineyards, of sun. He's never been. He's never left the castle. Born in the bailey, raised in the buttery. He'll die in the cellar, counting barrels. He dreams anyway. The dream smells like grapes, like earth, like freedom. He wakes up, counts again. 112, 113, 114. Same as yesterday. Same as tomorrow. The rats have a kingdom. Under the floor. Behind the walls. In the grain. They have a king. Fat. Black. One eye. He sleeps on a throne of cheese. His court dances. His queen births. 12 at a time. They grow fast. They grow bold. They grow into the beds. Into the sheets. Into the dreams. One rat nibbles the king's toe. The king kicks. The rat laughs. The rat wins. The castle breathes. Through the cracks. Through the chimneys. Through the privies. It inhales the smoke. The sweat. The wine. It exhales the mold. The rot. The memory. The castle is alive. And it never sleeps. It watches. It waits. It digests. Let's float up again. Slowly. Past the kitchens. Past the smoke. Past the spit boy turning. 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 Into the great hall. Where the embers glow. Where the dogs dream. Where the tapestries hang. Heavy with dust. Heavy with story. The tapestries show hunts. Battles. Lovers. Unicorns. The unicorns look bored. They've seen it all. The lovers look cold. They've felt it all. The hunters look hungry. They've eaten it all. The tapestries never sleep. They just fade. Slow. Steady. Like everything else. The great hall is quiet now. The tables are gone. The benches are stacked. The floor is swept. With rosemary. To mask the smell. Of ale. Of piss. Of blood. From the boar they ate last week. The boar was tough. The king complained. The cook cried. The spit boy turned faster. The circle is complete. The fire is low. One log. Crackling. The dogs circle it. 3 times. Like wolves. Like rituals. They settle. Noses to tails. They dream of rabbits. Of fields. Of freedom. They wake up. In chains. Of gold. Of duty. Of love. The king's favorite hound sleeps on his feet. Every night. The hound is old. Gray. Arthritic. He snores. The king snores. They match. Like an old married couple. They are. The jester sleeps in the rafters. On a beam. Curled like a bat. His bells are silent. His cap is off. His face is clean. He looks almost human. He dreams of applause. Of laughter. Of a stage. He wakes up. To silence. To darkness. To the beam. He stays. Because where else would he go? The world is cold. The beam is hard. The beam is home. The falcon sleeps on her perch. Hooded. Jest. Her bells tinkle. Soft. She dreams of sky. Of wind. Of blood. She wakes up. To the hood. To the glove. To the king. She screams. The king smiles. The circle is complete. The castle settles. The stones shift. The beams creak. The night deepens. The cold deepens. The dreams deepen. The king dreams of his father. Of his mother. Of his crown. The queen dreams of Provence. Of sun. Of silence. The prince dreams of war. Of glory. Of height. The cook dreams of bread. Of butter. Of sleep. The rat dreams of cheese. Of power. Of the king's toe. The night holds them all. Like a mother. Like a jailer. Like a lover. The night doesn't judge. The night just waits. For morning. For matins. For the bell. For the cycle. The cycle never ends. The cycle is the castle. The castle is the night. The night is forever. Let's drift to the tower. The high tower. The one with the view. The one with the prisoner.